Should be live on YouTube. Uh, I'm trying to set up a Twitter space, so excuse me while I troubleshoot.
Mhm.
Um, we are live for blizzard coverage in Minnesota, to a
Mhm.
lesser extent, Wisconsin, but that's more so tomorrow. Um, as well as Ontario, although Ontario is primarily tomorrow afternoon. Um, 1 second while I try and set up a Twitter space. Ethan, you can say whatever you need to say.
All right. Hey guys, I am one of the newer forecasters for Great Lakes weather tracking. You might have saw that I have been issuing forecast discussions recently. I will be helping out with that more and more.
Um, all right, I'm just gonna pull up radar here while I
Okay.
troubleshoot. Not the right radar.
Yeah, Radar Omega shot.
It doesn't load very well on this computer.
You're not the only one experiencing those problems.
Yep. All right.
Radar Omega is going downhill fast.
Here we go. Radar scope honestly doesn't work too great either, but works better.
Well, weather-wise.
That one's more so just an issue if I don't get it radar scope I've found works best on this specific computer.
Mm-hmm.
Um so again, blizzard warnings in effect for Minnesota, Wisconsin, central Ontario, specifically southeastern, I should say, Minnesota could be
Mm-hmm.
seeing 65 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts into the early morning today. Lord, this thing does not want to move. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No problem. If only I could share my screen, my radar scope loads.
Yeah, we were
Snap.
trying to get Ethan's screen up prior. Didn't work out too well.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And here now. All right, I'm going to go to Weatherwise.
Good
And
idea.
see. Yeah, should work better. Yeah.
Welcome to weather.
Here we go. Here we go. Now we're cooking with gas. This is, I think Minneapolis radar would be better here. So you can see here in the orange, I don't know how well it's showing up through the radar, but here in the orange are our blizzard warnings.
Our real blizzard warnings.
Yeah, NWS issued blizzard warnings, not GLWX. In effect, right now, we're primarily seeing those intense blizzard conditions here. I've seen a lot of like turned over semis in Lincoln because of the straight line winds. It's very significant. And through the night, this is going to progress northeast here. This is my weather model site of choosing. You can have your own. But surface wind gusts again. Don't use models the day of. This is kind of weird, but you
Mm-hmm.
can see here Nebraska's really getting the like peak winds. It's gonna taper off, and then here into southern Minnesota is where those 50 plus knot winds could be, which is like
58
uh,
miles an hour, right?
yeah, just severe force. And then again, here's Lake Wind Watch, I believe, in effect for Lake Michigan,
That
because
could get upgraded.
they're also getting this 50 knot winds that progresses downslope here in the mid Atlantic. We have this downslope potential here along the Alleghenies. on the specifically the southern spine of the Alleghenies, less so the northern and western spines. This is NWS. I don't know if this is actually up to date. There we go. The brown here is wind advisories. We have much more widespread wind advisories.
Of course, along and west of I-71 for us.
Yep. Big old Cleveland dome. But here, this is our unofficial advisories. Basically, the entire area is under a wind advisory, except for here, this eastern Ohio, western and eastern Pennsylvania, just this little strip of the Alleghenies. This New York all appears also under wind advisories. We're just prioritizing the blizzard advisories or blizzard warnings and such. Similarly, here with Ontario, all of the shaded area is in a wind advisory. It's just some of it is also in a winter storm warning, and here a blizzard warning. Again, blizzard warning is for tomorrow primarily. We've got a lot of warnings, actually. This is a very impressive low-pressure system. Currently, I think 981. Supposed to get down to 979, 978 range. Number of winter storm warnings. And as we've seen, we have 3 blizzard warnings out. One for parts of southern Minnesota, one for parts of western Wisconsin.
And
Another here for
this will
Ontario.
be Ontario's or Canada's 20th blizzard warning this year so far.
It has been very, especially here. I forget the exact name of the county. I think it's Nipissing, but a lot of stuff. This county, Nipissing, has seen a lot of blizzard warnings this year. Due to its unique position in relation to the Hudson Bay. Just because there's blizzard warnings doesn't actually mean these areas are going to see the peak snow totals. We're actually expecting peak snow totals to be here in the Marquette area, around 40 inches with some lake enhancement from Lake Superior. It's just that there won't be nearly as high of winds again. Here, it's expected to be closer to 40 knot gusts, 35, 40 knot gusts. But
look at Wisconsin there.
Yeah. Wisconsin's basically just completely purple on this map. But if we go to precipitation type, you can see why. Marquette is essentially right along the mixing line, which is where the heaviest snow is falling in this 30 dBz zone. This is around where peak totals are, so a little offset from the mixing line, but still, it's going to be absolutely doused in snow starting already right now. And this is HRRR snow accumulations. Again, it's just one model, but this is why I'm talking about Marquette. 35-inch totals in early March. That's fairly normal for that part of the country, but it's worth talking about. Do you have anything to say here, Ethan?
Well, I mean, like he said before, guys, even if there's blizzard warnings, that doesn't mean you're going to get the peak snow totals. I mean, you're going to have some pretty decent snow totals. Everyone is. But in the blizzard warnings, that is where we're specifically nailing possibly the potential for 35 plus mile per hour winds for over 3 hours or more. And that could cause blowing snow and whiteout conditions.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people don't necessarily realize. A blizzard, it doesn't matter how much snow you have. It's essentially a form of a wind warning. Which, speaking of, something that I haven't even really mentioned, but I'm seeing, especially with the later runs here, is potential for SAISH, specifically on Lake Michigan, which is effectively storm surge due to on a lake. Here, winds, this does not have a wind direction, but here, direction's about 335 degrees, so this is roughly this way. So
that's out of the northwest. You can kind of see the arrows.
Yeah. So the way that this part of Michigan's western shoreline is angled, there will be some very significant onshore forcing here in I cannot remember the name of the bay off the top of my head. There is a specific bay that I think we could see a multiple foot seiche occur in into the early morning, into the morning hours tomorrow. Here, here, this river, Benton Harbor, and the river next to it, the St. Joseph River. That's it. It has this breakwall, but what I noticed is that these are if we go here on Lake Resources has, I believe, forecasted wave height.
On Lake Resources.
Yep.
Then Tusky.
And here, 10 a.m.
And you can
11
also
a.m.
use Windy.
Yeah, I haven't used Windy in a while, honestly.
Yeah, me neither.
I thought here.
Look at all those gale warnings.
Yeah. I think every lake has gale warnings out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gale watches on Lake Ontario, but still, like, it's a very significant wind event. And again, I am starting to get a little worried about potential for a seiche event in western Michigan. Not particularly worried, but something could happen there. At the least, boating damage, probably. And then again, this just very intense low pressure system
Mm-hmm.
would continue ejecting to the northeast through Ontario. Here's another area of very intense banding here in Ontario, where we then see some more totals in excess of 20 inches here, where we have some locally more severe banding here, 24 inches, 22 inches. This is just one model, but it is a decent representation of what we could see happen. Here, GFS has, that is 21-inch totals widespread throughout the UP of Michigan. But again, like we're talking about here, the reason why, by the way, this is kind of just abruptly stopping here in like Ohio and Pennsylvania is because of dew point. It is very dry once this storm actually gets here. So like this is 7 a.m. Thursday. It is dry as a bone. 20-degree dews. Not at all favorable for any kind of winter storm development. So quick shot of snow, maybe Thursday morning, and then not a lot after that.
Yeah, it is going to be windy, though, on the back side of that front.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah, it's going to be real windy.
It is really the primary concern here is wind. We did have, I believe, red flag warnings out for, at least we did. I think NWS had red flag warnings as well here for some parts of Kentucky. We had red flag warnings out. They've probably expired at this point. But we had red flag warnings out for our areas in northern Kentucky. Because they are also in those extreme winds. It's just they are not talking about snow. They are also very dry, very warm. One last thing I think I'll say here before we wrap up probably
Honestly,
is
before you start talking again, can I point something out?
yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but the HRRR could be underperforming those wind gusts on the backside.
I do think here if I
Later on.
keep switching models, but I think the pressure gradient weakening is really the primary reason there, and HRRR has been fairly bad with pressure gradients, especially Recently comes to mind is Storm Eowyn, which was like
Yes.
an Ireland thing, so I don't know how many people have heard about it, but it had a not terribly tight pressure gradient on the HRRR. It ended up with like 115-mile-an-hour winds on the west coast. So,
Yeah.
like, the isobars aren't terribly close together here on the HRRR, which is why I think they're underperforming. I don't know if
Maybe.
this is downtrended on the global cycles, but like you can see visibly, the Euro's isobars are much closer together. The GFS's probably are too. They have much more compact isobars. That could
Yeah.
really be the problem with the HRRR. It's just I like using high res models, especially for wind speed, because
Yeah.
low res models perform even worse with wind speed.
Yeah. There's really no good model until you're about 18 hours out on the HRRR.
Yep.
Then you're in range.
Um, Here tomorrow, we are talking about a slight risk here
And we
in
also
western
did want to point
Pennsylvania.
that out.
Yeah. That is 2% tornado risk. The main, like, there is very good wind shear here in western Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio. The main problem is there's
Where we're
very
speaking from.
little instability or moisture. Um, it's
Locate
kind of a
high
classic.
shear environment. It's still concerning, but
Yeah,
it's not the highest like severe weather outlook ever.
yeah. It's
Right.
kind of a classic cold season setup for the Midwest is that low Cape high shear setup. The main reason here we're really talking about is hail. Actually has kind of a bullseye here in western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Youngstown, here into Maryland, West Virginia areas we don't really cover as much, but that is mildly concerning. It's not hatched or anything, but there's potential, maybe
I'm
park your
starting
car.
to wonder if the dry slot is actually a bit bigger, that SPC will put the marginal risk a bit further to the west.
Um, Here's
We'll
a
see.
like there are prefrontals firing, and I've seen this in the 12Z and 18Z cycles as well. There's prefrontals; they just don't mature at all outside of this little north moving squall line, which barely exists along
Ooh,
the
zero Z
mountains.
zero ZH triple R is in. It looks like. Oh
Fully,
yeah, it
yeah.
is. Oh, nice.
Uh, that's actually not bad banding off of Lake Erie here into Ontario. That's something. And then again, this just
Yeah,
I'm gonna
and then it gets,
switch.
and then there's this big. I did want to mention to all of y'all that since like the temperature gradient is so like large, like even though if you don't get like thunderstorms or anything, you're still gonna get big wind gusts along the cold front. It's just how it
Yeah.
goes.
And again, this is like the squall line segment of this isn't really too concerning for Pennsylvania. It kind of tapers off here in the
Just some random wind.
Appalachians. Yeah, it's much more concerning here, North Carolina area. But there's, some damaging wind potential here. That's why there's a 15% risk from the SBC. It's just not nearly as concerning as it is further south where that enhanced risk is. And again, hail
Yeah,
risk is
waiting.
primarily from these kind of post-frontal, I guess you would call them, thunderstorms that fire up here just east of the Alleghenies. And that's, again, where a downslope event is occurring.
Yeah, it looks like that cold front turns into a warm front, and then it pulls in more warm air to the Ohio Valley on Wednesday afternoon.
That is something. Uh, it's probably just all of the air intruding from the rapid deepening process.
Yeah.
Here, you can see it. You can actually kind of see this. There's a warm nose forming in the low pressure circulation here, so that's probably going to screw this whole system up. But again, it's going to get cold again briefly. I think like -20 in Canada if you listen to the GFS. with like -30 wind chill, but northern Ontario is not exactly a stranger to those kind of conditions.
So we would still have to issue cold weather advisories, though, right?
Yeah, I think criteria here. Northern Canada criteria is -35, and I think it would eclipse that. So we would put wind chill warnings out and cold weather advisories out. Um, I'm just gonna do like a quick roundup of our current warnings, NWS current warnings, and then we're probably gonna be signing off. Not a terribly long stream. We have school
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I should be
Charlie,
wrapping up soon because I should be going to bed, but I don't think my dad would care if I go to bed like 5 minutes late. That just doesn't matter.
yeah, Charlie's studying for his SATs, so he couldn't come on tonight. Um, so just quick summary. Winter storm warnings in effect for the entire Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The majority of Wisconsin outside of the blizzard warning, and quite sizable portion of Ontario. Winter weather advisories in effect here in Minnesota. This is winter weather advisories because I'm actually more concerned with ice totals, which shouldn't be too worrying. But like that looks like there could be maybe a tenth of an inch of ice in some of these areas, more concerning than the quarter inch of snow.
Oh,
Wind advisories for basically the entire forecast area. What were you about to say?
oh, sorry about that. I did not mean to interrupt. But basically, I don't know. This coincides. Anybody, if you're watching from Eastern Ohio, this might be something important to listen to. National Weather Service Cleveland says as of their 7:30 p.m. EST update, it says that they said thunderstorms for Wednesday afternoon and or early evening is likely across our entire CWA. So that means they're expecting a westward ignition.
That is something to look out for, and that'll probably get mentioned tomorrow in our forecast discussion or tonight
And then
if I
he
decide to type one up.
and then the person who said this, he said, this jives with trends in model guidance and SPC's latest convective weather outlook.
Hmm.
So I don't know what that could mean. I think it could mean they push it a little bit further west. And our entire Northeast Ohio region is under a wind advisory now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they would expand that after they did at the 1 o'clock cycle.
The
Just
I-71.
yep. Just wrapping up again here. Wind advisories for essentially the entire region. Again, this is an old map, so this will probably get filled in at some point. Lake Wind Watch for all 5 Great Lakes, probably Lake Nipissing and the Georgian Bay as well. I wouldn't go so far as to say Lake Oshkosh. Flood watches in effect here in western New York snowbelt country because of the warm up and the fact that some of these areas got 11 feet of snow that is now beginning to melt. And those red flag warnings in northern Kentucky have expired. And in Canada, blizzard warnings continue for parts of Ontario, surrounded by winter weather advisories and widespread wind advisories.
Just because the National Weather Service issued the wind advisory, should I just put the wind advisory in the rest of the region just to be safe?
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Okay, let's do that.
And then here, this is the official NWS map. Winter weather advisories, not blizzard warnings here in Wisconsin. This is lakeshore flood warnings, again, because of that SAISH here for the Keenaw Peninsula of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Here's those flood warnings in New York. Southern Indiana, here in a special weather statement for 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And lakeshore flood warning here for parts of Indiana near Chicago. I'm
All right,
ready.
I'm filling in the rest of our area now.
All right. I think we're gonna call it here very short, just essentially a forecast stream. we've seen legitimate power flashes in Nebraska because of the winds from Ryan Scholl, I believe, saw power flashes. So
And
it's
one more thing, I promise it's going to be one more thing. If you're in the wind advisory area, expect the potential for some sporadic power outages.
yeah, absolutely.
Use your phone as an alarm clock.
Yeah, I think we'll call it there. Definitely going to be an eventful early morning in Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And just a very potent, abnormally strong low
Storm
pressure
over.
system for March. I'm Grady Chamberlain of GLWX here with Ethan Ferrari of GLWX. Thank
You
you for
got it.
watching.
All right. See you guys.